Good morning and welcome to Daily Red Devil for all of your latest Manchester United transfer news and talk. Hope everyone is doing well on this Wednesday morning. We're back with another massive show to bring you guys today. But before we do that, please smash a like on today's video, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and let's get straight on into it. On the show today, we're going to be talking a bit about a potential exit for Casemiro, with Saudi clubs circling for his signature in the summer. We'll also be talking a bit about a bidding war for Michael Olise, with a shock club apparently adding him to their list of targets for the summer. Also talking, of course, about the news that broke last night that Jim Ratcliffe has now officially bought 27% of Manchester United. So, yeah, lots and lots to get into on the show today. As always, get involved in the comment section, guys. Let me know your thoughts on everything we discuss on today's show. Let's start off with the big bit of breaking news that came out last night, and that is that Jim Ratcliffe is officially a co-owner of Manchester United. You know what, guys? I know it's maybe not the scenario that everybody wanted. I know everybody wanted a full sale. I know everybody wanted the Glazers out, but the Glazers were never going to sell. They were never going to sell 100% of the club, let's be honest. You know, from what we heard, Qatar offered double what the club was worth almost, and they still didn't want to sell it. So, you know, we are where we are. I've been impressed with what I've seen of Jim Ratcliffe so far, and to think that Jim Ratcliffe only officially became a co-owner last night at 9:15 p.m. UK time, and he's already got Manchester City CEO. He's about to take Dan Ashworth's Newcastle's director of football. Like, he's already made a massive impact, and he's only just officially been announced as the co-owner. So I'm not going to complain about that. So he has officially bought 27.7% of Manchester United, which is, you know what, that is quite a lot. It's almost a third of the club. And apparently, this is all on the Manchester United website. This isn't, you know, speculation. Apparently, he's going to buy another, I think it's 1.5% of the club by December. So Jim Ratcliffe's going to invest a further £100 million into the club by December the 31st, 2024, and then will own about another 1.5%, taking his share up to about 30%. So by the time we get to December, he'll own about a third of the club, which is that's good. You know, I'm somewhat happy with that. It's gone from 25% to 30% in a very, very short space of time. And when you think that the Glazers only own 69% and now he owns 30%, you know, they still are the majority shareholders, of course, but he's only probably about 5 or 10% away from being the majority shareholder of Man United. So I think there's definitely room for positivity here. Let's read out some of the stuff that came in the official announcement. So it says that Manchester United can confirm that Jim Ratcliffe has acquired his acquisition of 25% of the club's Class B shares and 25% of the club's Class A shares. So some of those shares will be the Glazers shares and some of the shares will be on the New York Stock Exchange. He's also then invested a further £200 million into the club, which is giving him an extra 2.7%, taking his total share to 27.7%. He's also committed to spend another £100 million by December 2024, which will give him an additional 1.35%, taking his total share to around 29-30%. So that's where we are with it. How's everyone feeling about it today? Let me know in the comment section, guys. I'm happy, you know. I'm happy that we can finally stop talking about it. I'm happy that Jim Ratcliffe clearly seems to know what he's doing. I'm happy that we've got somebody who I think will give 150% for Manchester United. And I think people will say, oh, well, why did he not buy the whole club? I just don't think they ever wanted to buy the whole club, you know? Yeah, I just don't think they ever wanted to sorry, I don't think the Glazers ever wanted to sell the whole club. I just don't think that was ever an option. Let's see what people are saying in the chat today. Andy says, we are broke apparently, so anyone we can get good money for, especially those on stupid wages, we should be talking about for the rebuild. Yeah, we'll talk about some player sales in a minute. Let me know what your thoughts are, guys, though. How are you feeling now that Jim Ratcliffe has been announced as the co-owner? It feels like a bit of a weight's been lifted off my back, to be honest, because we literally were talking about it every day for about 6 months, weren't we? Every single day. Is it going to be Qatar? Is it going to be Jim Ratcliffe? And I am just now happy that we know exactly what's going on. And I think we can kind of move forward a bit more positively now. So that's that. We'll wait and see what happens with the future. Let's see what happens. Keeping on the topic of Jim Ratcliffe, there has been some more developments this morning, actually, on Jim Ratcliffe bringing in a new head of recruitment, which is really, really exciting, actually. So apparently Sir Dave Brailsford is looking to appoint another executive primarily focusing on recruitment. They're looking at Julian Ward, who used to be at Liverpool. It says Julian Ward featured prominently in the discussions. Ward is cautious about his next choice and sees the scope of the role as a very important part of the decision. So for anybody who's unaware of who this Julian Ward guy is, he was at Liverpool, I believe. I mean, he's currently the sporting director at Liverpool. I didn't realise he was the sporting director. Yeah, he's the sporting director. Okay, so he left in... so he's not anymore. He left in May 2023. But he was at Liverpool for most of his career and started his career at Man City. He was at Man City for 2 years as a scout. Then he went to Liverpool and he was at Liverpool for about 10 years. And finally was their technical director and their sporting director. I mean, it sounds good to me, you know. Obviously, he's not in a club at the moment. So, I don't know. I'll be honest with you guys. I don't know that much about this guy. Let's see if I can find any players that he discovered. So let's have a look. Julian Ward, he signed players like... Okay, here we go. Julian Ward signings at Liverpool ranked. Let's have a little read through this together, shall we? Everyone smash a like on the video if you haven't already. Let's try and see 200 likes on today's video. So here's some of the people that Julian Ward signed. He signed Calvin Ramsey. Never heard of him, to be honest. Fabio Carvajal. He didn't really work at Liverpool, did he? He signed Cody Gakpo. That was a really, really good signing. That was a signing we were trying to go for. He also signed Darwin Núñez, 64 million. I think that was a really, really good deal. Darwin Núñez has had a really solid season this year. And for 64 million pounds, I think they got a bargain there, to be honest. He also signed Luis Diaz, another player Man United wanted, another really, really good player. And he also signed Alexis McAllister in the summer for 35 million. So in his short time as the Liverpool director of football, you know, to have signed Alexis McAllister, Luis Diaz, Darwin Núñez and Cody Gakpo, all four of which I would have taken at Man United, all four of which were bought for reasonable amounts of money. Luis Diaz, 37 million, McAllister, 35 million. If you brought him in as the head of recruitment to work alongside Dan Ashworth, I'd be really happy with that. I would, because he's got a proven track record. He's worked in the Premier League for 10 plus years, and we know that the other target we wanted, Brighton's head of recruitment, has gone to Chelsea. So we're going to have to do something different. So let me know what you guys think. What do you think of those four players? Let me know. Julian Ward looks like he will become the head of recruitment, and that probably will be announced in the next couple of weeks. That was coming out from Laurie Whitwell in The Athletic this morning. So really excited about that. Let's see what people are saying in the chat this morning. Andy says the Glazers were never going to sell. This is a better option than a faceless hedge fund, and we need to get behind it. Yeah, mate, I agree with you. I 100% agree with you now, you know? Like, we had a carrot dangled in front of our noses, which was Sheikh Jassim, clearing the debt, full takeover, Glazers gone. And it was something we dreamed of for so many years. But as Andy says, it was a faceless hedge fund, realistically, wasn't it? It was a Qatari-backed bid from a man who I think there's only one picture of on the internet, literally, and maybe a couple of videos. Like, it was very strange. And we are where we are. But let's talk a little bit about Casemiro then, shall we? So I've got a poll running on the channel at the moment. And the question is, would you sell Casemiro in the summer? 72% of you say yes. 28% of you say no. I'm in the yes camp. I think Casemiro is 32 next week. I couldn't believe how old he is. 32. In my opinion, you've got to cash in on him now. He's got 2 years left of his contract. 32 years of age. He still is a world-class player, but I just don't think, you know, at 350 grand a week, when we're probably not going to be in the Champions League as it stands, I just don't think Man United can do that. But it'd be interesting to see what you guys think. Let me know in the comment section. Would you sell Casemiro to Saudi? The story came last night, actually, that apparently, I mean, this really, really interested me. Apparently, a Saudi club last summer offered £70 million for Casemiro. Which I think was pretty crazy. It says, Man United had a solid proposal from Saudi Arabia for Casemiro last summer for an amount very similar to the amount that they paid Real Madrid, around 70 million euros. It says a retirement in Saudi Arabia is on Casemiro's mind, and their interest in the player remains valid ahead of this summer. So it looks like that deal will probably happen. We know that Cristiano Ronaldo, obviously at Al Nassr, is, you know, really, really pushing the Saudi league to become this bigger and better thing. And bringing in people like Casemiro, he's a massive brand. Yeah, I can see it happening. But keeping on the topic of Casemiro, he was talking about Kobbie Mainoo last night in an interview. And this is what Casemiro had to say about Kobbie Mainoo. He says, I know Manchester United will have one of the best midfielders in the Premier League for the next years, easily. That's really nice to see, isn't it? And I think even if Casemiro does leave in the summer, the experience and knowledge that he would have passed on to Kobbie Mainoo is priceless. You know, for Kobbie Mainoo to have played in the Premier League in his first season alongside Casemiro, I think that's priceless. I do. Like, I know Casemiro maybe doesn't look like the player that he was at Real Madrid at times, but he still is a world-class player. Just the way he reads the game, you know, the experiences he's had. Like he's not won 5 Champions Leagues from being an average player. That's just not how football works. He is one of the best, if not the best, CDMs in world football over the last kind of 10 years. So I'm still absolutely buzzing that we signed Casemiro in the first place. I think, 70 million euros was a hell of a lot of money. It was questionable. I think the wages were questionable, but we still love to see players like this at our club, don't we? As much as we like, players to come through the youth academy like Kobbie Mainoo's and Rashford's and others, it is still exciting when you bring in world-class stars like Casemiro. It is. Like, it does get you excited. But let's see what people are saying in the chat about it. Daniel says, if we got rid of Casemiro, who would you sign instead? Amadou Onana from Everton's probably the safest option, I think. I reckon Everton are probably going to get relegated. I think Everton are going to get relegated personally, which obviously means that Amadou Onana would be available probably for a bit less than what he would be available usually. Actually, no, Everton are out of the relegation zone now. I mean, they're level on points with Luton. I would probably go with Amadou Onana. I think he's a solid option. Obviously, he's got Premier League experience. We know that Man United were interested in him before he went to Everton as well. So there's been a long-standing interest in Amadou Onana, 22 years of age. I think he'd be available for somewhere around 40 to 50 million euros. And I think he'd be perfect for that CDM position for me personally. But let me know what you guys think. If we were to sell Casemiro, who would you bring in instead? I just think that Dan Ashworth's going to be looking at proven Premier League players, but not ones where he's going to have to overspend. So it could be people like Amadou Onana. It could be people like Jared Brathwaite. Those types of signings where you could probably get them for about 40 million euros, 30 to 40 million pounds kind of thing. So that's what I would be looking at doing, because obviously there's people like João Neves over in the Portuguese league, 19 years of age, but they've got release clauses of like 120 million euros. And I just don't think that Man United can take that risk at this point of spending over 100 million on one player who's got no Premier League experience and is only 19, 20. Whereas Amadou Onana fits the age profile, 22 years of age, lots of Premier League experience, is in the Belgium national team. Like, I would go with him personally, but let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Let's see what people are saying. Robbo says Dan Ashworth's mission when he comes to Man United is to look for a world-class CDM if Casemiro goes. Yeah. Anthony says Casemiro for 70 million would be a no-brainer. We must be really dumb not to cash in on him. Casemiro is losing his legs, but we still have the brains like Eriksen. Yeah. Fred says, do you think a 27% stake is enough to bring success? I think it is. Yeah, I think it is. Because at the end of the day, like, it's all about who Jim Ratcliffe brings in to the powerful positions at Man United. From a commercial perspective, the Glazers have done an incredible job. They have. There's no way you can doubt that. They bring in lots and lots of money, but then they take it out themselves. That's the bit where the issues lie. The issue with the Glazers have been they've let the sporting side of the club rot and they take out money instead of putting money in. But from an actual revenue perspective, they are growing the club year on year. It's the football perspective which has really, really dropped, isn't it? Yeah, I think we can be successful if the right people come in. It's not going to be immediate. We're not going to be winning the Champions League or Premier Leagues next season. I think it could be as long as 5 years before we actually see any, serious success. But you've got to try and stay positive. Hopefully next season we do better. Hopefully we're comfortably in the top 4. Maybe we win the Europa League. Like, I'd be happy with that. It's small steps. We've won 1 trophy in the last 6 years, and that was the League Cup. If we were to win the Europa League next season, I'd be happy. I know people will say, "Oh, we're Man United. We should be winning Champions Leagues," but like, we've won. Is it 2 Champions Leagues in our history? I believe. Like, why? What gives us this divine right to suddenly be like, oh, we should be winning the Champions League next season. You know, every other team in the world is improved massively since we last won our Champions League. We've won the Champions League twice, and obviously then we've won the European Cup as well once. So, I mean, they are kind of the same competition, aren't they? One was in 1967, and the other two obviously were more recent. But we haven't won the Champions League since 2007. That's like, what, 18 years ago? Is that right? I get confused sometimes. What are we in now? 2024. 17 years ago was the last time we won the Champions League. And the last time we won the Premier League was in 2012. So over 12 years ago. Like, just let that sink in for a minute. No Champions League or Premier League in 12 years. That's mad. That's actually mad when you think about it, isn't it? Like, our last major trophy was the Europa League in 2016. What's that, 8 years ago? Yeah. So, and some people wouldn't even call the Europa League a major trophy. Like, that was our last big trophy. People say the League Cup is a joke. It's the Carabao Cup. It's sponsored by an energy drink that nobody seems to even drink. Like, you know, the prize money for the Carabao Cup is nothing, blah, blah, blah. Like, I get all of that. But yeah, let me know what you guys think about all that. What else have we got? Digital Sports Update says, if we let Casemiro go, we should make sure we get a good replacement. Yeah. Anthony says, Dan and Wilcox should know better who to replace Casemiro and any other outgoings. Papa says, I can see most of these players leaving, and that includes Rashford, Sancho, Martial, McTominay, Maguire, Eriksen, Lindelof, Wan-Bissaka, Evans, Pellistri, Ahmad, Donny van der Beek and Mason. I would agree with every single player in that list, my friend, apart from Mason Mount. I think that Mason Mount's going to be Bruno Fernandes' replacement. I think that Bruno will leave in the next couple of seasons. He's 30 this season, Bruno. The thing with Mason Mount, right, I know everyone, including myself, thinks he was a stupid signing, but he is still very young. Like, he's only just turned 25 last month. So when you compare that to Bruno Fernandes, right, what age did we sign Bruno Fernandes? Let me have a quick look for you guys now. Yeah, so Bruno Fernandes is 30 in a couple of months, right? Just let that sink in for a minute. Bruno Fernandes, it will be 30 in a couple of months. We signed him in 2020. So we signed Bruno Fernandes when he was 25. Bruno Fernandes came to Manchester United at the same age as what Mason Mount is now. The point I'm trying to make here is people saying, oh, Mason Mount will leave. I don't think he will, because I genuinely could see Mason Mount playing in the position of where Bruno Fernandes is, because Bruno will leave in the next couple of seasons. He's got 2 years left on his current contract. I think he'll either leave... I think he'll probably leave next summer, personally. Unless we don't get Champions League football this year, maybe he says, I want to go, and maybe we cash in on him, you know? And I think that Mason Mount will then take his position. And I actually think that Mason Mount will come good at Man United. I know it's been a terrible start so far, but I genuinely do believe that he can come good next season if he was to get Bruno Fernandes' position. But yeah, all the other players you've listed, mate, I think all of them could leave. Rashford, Sancho, Martial, McTominay, Maguire, Eriksen, Lindelof, Wan-Bissaka, Johnny Evans, Pellistri. Ahmad I'd probably keep. Donny obviously will go as well. So yeah. Actually, maybe the guy meant Mason Greenwood. He said Mason, but I don't know whether he meant Mason Mount or Mason Greenwood. Quite a few people in the chat are putting positive comments about Mason Mount, saying Mason Mount will come good. Yeah, I agree, mate. I agree. Right, let's talk about Olise quickly before we wrap up the video. So the story coming out this morning is that apparently Michael Olise will be Manchester United's first signing, but apparently they are facing competition from Juventus. Apparently Juventus have entered the race for Olise. I'm not worried about Juventus. We know that Olise is a Man United fan. We know that, let's be honest, coming to Man United is a bigger thing than going to Juventus, in my opinion. I think everyone would agree with that. So I'm not particularly worried about this. I think it's probably just the press putting out a story to try and generate more interest around the player. There's some breaking news coming out now, actually. This is interesting. This is just broke in the last couple of seconds, guys. This is literally breaking news. And the story is Gary Neville has apparently been invited by Manchester United to join a special committee to oversee the regeneration of Old Trafford and the surrounding area. What does everybody think about that? The story goes on to say Neville has no interest in any role that could conflict with his work for Sky Sports, but he is more than happy to give his time to a project that will also be of benefit to the local area between the football ground and the Manchester Ship Canal. Yeah, I think that's a good thing. You know, I don't want Gary Neville to be signing the players or coaching the players, but I think, you should be asking for people like Gary Neville's advice on what to do with the stadium. So I've got no issue with that. I assume everyone will agree, but let me know what you guys think below. Right, I'm going to wrap the video up here, guys. Fred's asked, would you take Barkley for Mount? I assume you mean Ross Barkley. Definitely not, mate. No, not for me. Yeah. I'm going to wrap the video up here, guys. I will be back this evening at about 6 o'clock. If you have enjoyed today's video, please do smash a like before you go. Subscribe if you're new. This has been Daily Red Devil, and I'll speak to you all a bit later.